All right. So, when you think about a heist,
Yeah.
you think, gold bars
Yeah.
or like a daring bank robbery.
Right.
But, okay, try and picture this. You got some like grainy security footage,
Yeah.
and it shows what looks like a totally normal municipal crew.
Yep.
Right? Like they pull up to Zoo Lake in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. But get this, what they're after isn't cash.
Oh, wow.
It's 6 full-grown like heritage trees. And they just dig them up, haul them off.
No way.
Yeah, and then here's where it gets super weird. Okay, so by sunrise, those exact same trees were reportedly being sold as like landscaping, I don't know, like fancy landscaping specimens at some nursery in Four Ways.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know, it makes you think, right? Like that awesome mature tree you've always wanted in your garden, I don't know, could it have like a totally crazy and illegal backstory?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's definitely a wild thought, and it really does make you think about a whole other side of city life,
That's right.
So today we're diving into the world of tree laundering.
That's right.
Right here in Joburg. And we've got some really interesting sources that detail this undercover investigation that followed 14 stolen park trees.
14.
Yeah. All the way to private estates. Some very exclusive ones, actually.
Okay, so we're talking 14 mature trees gone, like poof, from public parks to private gardens.
Yeah.
Like that's not just a couple of saplings going missing, right?
Yeah.
That's a full-on operation. So today what we want to do is understand the mechanics of this whole thing.
Yeah.
How does this even happen? We're going to expose like these nurseries that are acting as fences, basically.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at some of the crazy methods these tree thieves use.
Oh, yeah.
So get ready for some wild facts. A 1.5 million rand nursery racket. And a police raid where they found 800,000 rands worth of trees. Like, seriously, get ready to have your mind blown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where did these stolen trees even come from?
So what the investigation found was this surprisingly organized Yeah, like a whole supply chain for mature trees. It all starts with what they call harvesters. These aren't just like random people with shovels. These guys actually pretend to be city workers.
Wow.
Yeah, so they'll have uniforms, sometimes even cloned municipal trucks.
Cloned trucks?
Yeah, so they can operate in broad daylight
wow.
and basically just blend in while they're committing these thefts.
So they're not even sneaking around.
No, not at all. It's bold.
That's some serious audacity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they dig up these huge trees,
Yeah.
but they can't just throw them in the back of a pickup truck, can they?
You're right. That's where what they call transporters come in.
Okay.
To keep the trees alive, they use refrigerated containers.
Wow.
Yeah, and this shows how commercially driven this whole thing is.
Yeah.
They're not just stealing wood, they're moving living trees as these high value, I don't know, commodities or something. And they use these specialized units that maintain the temperature and humidity.
So it's like a mobile life support system for trees.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so they take the trees under false pretenses, they keep them alive in these high-tech containers, and then where do they go? This is where the laundering comes in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last link in the chain is the resellers. These are the guys that basically act like regular wholesale nurseries.
Okay.
The key thing here is the fake paperwork, the provenance papers.
Right.
They create a whole fake history for the tree.
Oh.
It's all designed to make it look like the tree was grown legally. Without that, it would be almost impossible to sell these big mature trees.
So it's like a whole parallel illegal industry, mirroring the legit one, even down to the fake paperwork. So our sources mentioned an undercover investigation at one of these suspect nurseries. What did they find?
So this part of the investigation, it gave us a real look into how these guys work.
Okay.
Undercover buyers, wearing hidden cameras, went to a nursery that was suspected of selling stolen trees.
Makes sense.
And what they saw was pretty interesting.
Right.
They called it special stock.
Special stock.
Yeah, and they didn't display it out in the open with the other plants. They only showed it to potential buyers after hours.
Oh, that's suspicious.
Right. Like, why hide your best trees? It's definitely not normal.
Yeah, a legitimate nursery would want to show off their mature trees, not hide them till after dark. What else did they see?
Well, the money side of things was also really interesting. They insisted on cash only for these special trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, classic move in illegal trades. No paper trail, right? Makes it much harder for law enforcement to track the money.
Okay, so cash only for what are probably very expensive trees.
Exactly.
That's not your average trip to the garden center. And it gets even weirder, right? Something about microchips.
Yeah, so this is where it really confirms that it's illegal. The undercover buyer was told that for an extra fee, the nursery would remove any microchips embedded in the trees.
Wow.
Right. So they obviously know that some of these trees are tagged or tracked.
That's a dead giveaway.
Yeah. Why else would they remove a tracking device? Unless they were trying to hide where it came from.
It's like they're trying to erase the tree's past, like completely.
Yeah, exactly. Cut all ties to its origin.
Speaking of tracking, our deep dive also mentioned some pretty high-tech ways they're tracking these trees. This isn't just about noticing an empty spot in a park, right? This is like serious detective work.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely gotten sophisticated.
Yeah.
Because the tree theft is so sophisticated.
Yeah.
So they've had to adapt. One method they use is they call them subdermal RFID chips.
What is this?
They're these tiny electronic transponders. They inject them under the bark of the tree.
Oh, okay.
And then you can scan them with a handheld device. It identifies the tree and gives you all the information.
So it's like a digital fingerprint for the tree.
Yeah, exactly. It stays with the tree no matter where it goes.
That's actually really clever. What else are they using?
They're also using these things called chemical trace markers.
Chemical trace markers.
Yeah, it's like giving the tree a unique chemical signature, you know? You can't really remove it completely. So if they think a tree's been stolen, they take a small sample of the tree and they test it in a lab to see if it matches the chemical marker.
So it's like forensic science, but for trees.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And then I remember reading something about blockchain and DNA registries.
Yeah.
That sounds like something out of a, I don't know, a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it does sound a bit futuristic.
Doesn't it?
But it's actually happening.
Really?
Yeah. So blockchain-based DNA registries, basically they're trying to create a permanent record of a tree's DNA.
Oh, okay.
So imagine you take a DNA sample from a tree at a nursery and you instantly compare it to this database.
That's incredible.
It would tell you exactly where it came from.
Wow. Like an unhackable record of the tree's identity.
Exactly.
Now, the sources mentioned some GPS data that really helped them understand how these stolen trees are moved around. They were talking about a Norwood oak tree.
Right. Yeah.
What happened there?
So they got this GPS data, right?
Yeah.
And it showed that this specific oak tree from Norwood was moved 3 times to different locations.
So 3 times.
Yeah. So it's definitely a deliberate effort to, like, cover its tracks, you know?
Wow, that's a lot of work for one tree.
Right. Shows you how planned out these operations are.
It does. So all this tracking, all this undercover work, it's got to lead to some action from the police, right?
Yeah.
Like our sources talked about this big police raid.
Yeah. So all this investigative work led to a raid at dawn on this nursery in Rudeport.
Okay.
And it wasn't just a small operation. They thought this place was a major hub for laundering stolen trees. And they were right.
How so?
Well, during the raid, they recovered 37 mature trees, all stolen.
37 trees.
Yeah, it was a huge blow to this criminal network.
Wow, 37 trees in one raid.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And it wasn't just trees they found, right?
No, they also found fake municipal paperwork.
Oh, so the harvesters.
Exactly.
Impersonating city workers.
Yeah, they used that to explain why they have these big trees.
Oh, okay.
So basically fake ID for the trees.
Yeah, I get it. Did they arrest anyone?
Oh, yeah. They arrested 4 people at the nursery. They believe these guys were connected to multiple tree heists.
Oh, wow.
So this is definitely not just a few isolated incidents. It's a big connected network.
Wow. The sources mentioned Emerentia figs specifically. Is there something special about those trees?
Yeah, I think the Emerentia figs are important for a couple of reasons. First, they're usually big, mature trees. You find them in the older, wealthier suburbs like Emerentia.
Right.
And because they're so big and mature, they're worth a lot on the black market.
Oh, okay.
Because people want that instant garden look.
Gotcha.
And also, because they're so old, they might even be heritage trees, which would make stealing them an even bigger deal.
Makes sense. So, someone's listening to this, maybe they're landscaping their yard or they want some big trees.
Right.
How do they make sure they're not supporting this whole illegal thing? How can they buy trees ethically?
That's a really good question. The first thing is, if a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. A mature tree, it takes time, care, and it costs money to grow.
Right.
So a really low price should be a warning sign. But beyond that, there are some specific documents that a legitimate seller should be able to show you.
Okay, like what? What should people be asking for?
So first, ask to see the nursery growth records. A good nursery keeps detailed records of how they grew the tree, how long they've had it and all the care they've given it.
Makes sense.
And second, always ask for transport permits, especially for big trees. There are laws about how you can move them.
Oh, Okay, what about trees that are like protected species?
Yeah, that's important. If you want to buy a tree that might be protected or endangered, you need to see their CITES certificates. CITES, it's an international agreement,
Yeah.
and it makes sure that people aren't overexploiting certain plants and animals. So if someone's selling you a protected species,
Yeah.
a valid CITES certificate is the only way to know it's legal.
Got it. So ask the right questions, get the right documents. Simple enough, right? Now, our sources also mentioned a visit to a certified ethical tree grower.
Mm-hmm.
What was different about that?
Visiting that grower, it was such a contrast to the illegal stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah.
You could see how much they care about their trees, how they keep records, and how open they are about where the trees come from.
Okay.
They're proud of their work and happy to show you all the paperwork to prove it.
That makes sense. So it sounds like the good guys are doing things right, and they're not afraid to show it.
Yeah.
And it's up to us, as buyers, to do our homework and make good choices.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Mm.
Our deep dive talked about some really cool community action, specifically the Parkview Residents Initiative.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Tell us about what they did to stop tree theft.
So the Parkview residents, they're a great example of a community stepping up to protect their green spaces. They saw this problem and they decided to do something about it. They got organized and came up with some really creative solutions.
What kind of solutions?
Well, one thing that did was they created a tree DNA database.
A DNA database?
Yeah, they worked with scientists and they started collecting DNA samples from all the trees in their parks and public areas.
Gotcha.
So now they have a unique genetic record for every tree.
That's
So
amazing.
it's like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And if they find a stolen tree, they can use this database to prove where it came from.
Oh, wow.
It's a great way to deter thieves.
Yeah, it makes it much harder to lie about where a tree came from. What else did they do?
They also started installing anti-theft smart tags on all their trees.
Smart tags.
Yeah, think like advanced RFID chips, maybe even with GPS tracking,
Oh,
so they can monitor where the trees are.
wow.
And if someone moves a tree without permission, they'll know.
That's high tech.
Yeah,
So DNA fingerprinting and GPS tracking, did it work?
it did. The Parkview residents reported a 94% drop in tree thefts.
94%.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It just shows that if you understand the problem and you use the right solutions, you can really fight back against these criminals.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. So as we finish this deep dive into tree laundering, what are the main things we've learned? This whole thing's a lot bigger than most people realize, right?
Yeah, it is. We've learned that this isn't just about a few random people stealing trees.
Yeah.
It's a whole organized crime operation with harvesters, transporters, and these reseller nurseries.
It's crazy how these businesses that look legitimate are part of the whole thing.
I know, right?
It's so much harder to spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not just about a missing tree from a park, is it? It affects our whole city, our environment, even our own gardens, if we're not careful.
Right. And that's why it's so important for people to know that if they see a deal that's too good to be true,
Yeah,
for a mature tree, it probably is. And that low price, it probably means that the tree was stolen.
it makes sense.
So we all need to be smarter about where we buy our trees.
Yeah. This whole investigation has really opened my eyes. It's crazy to think there are all these secret networks operating right here in our city.
I know. It makes you think, what other illegal stuff is hidden in plain sight?
Yeah, it really makes you question everything.
It does. It makes you think twice about where things come from and what impact our choices have.
Definitely. It's something we all need to be more aware of.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening,
Thank you.
and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye.